What up, Mafia? Welcome into the Bills Breakdown by Chat Sports. Now, before we get into today's episode, which deals all with ESPN's latest article about the one move the Bills need to make before training camp starts, call this a little bit of homework for you. We are this close to 5,000 subscribers on the channel, which would be our very first major milestone. So if you could help me get 25 new subscribers, and let's chip away at that number, it'd be greatly appreciated. Let's start today's episode. Hopefully you're ready to break some tables. I know I am. So the most recent article from ESPN from Aaron Schatz says the one move the Bills need to make is to extend guard David Edwards. Now, this is the one move. They highlighted all 32 teams, and of these moves, none of them were really like, they need to trade this player or they need to do this or need to do that. It was more so players that were already on the team, albeit some were signed some free agents. So in case you were wondering, there isn't any major like quarterback news on this article. But it does go on to say this about David Edwards. The Bills have two veterans on their offensive line entering free agency in 2026. And it would be a good idea to get at least one of those guys nailed down for an extra couple of years. I'm going with Edwards over center Connor McGovern, but the Bills should get by with either deal or both. Now, I want to keep going on to say that Edwards was 16th among qualifying guards in pass block win rate, last season, and was also above average in run blocking. So he'll be 28 during the 2025 season, right in the middle of his prime and deserving of an extension. So let's take a look very briefly on David Edwards' stats last year. Now, I know the article has some very high praise to say about it. Man, he is a good starting guard. The numbers, the PFF numbers, not the greatest, but PFF is also not the Bible. They're very passable numbers according to PFF. I don't think you need to look at that and say, oh my God, how could he have such low numbers? PFF's algorithm is all over the place. Now, I will say this though. Edwards was a key factor in James Cook's ability and development last season. A guard's primary job is to pull holes through that A and B gap, especially if you're the left guard, to make running lanes happen for the running back. Guards primarily are more focused on their north to south blocking rather than their east to west. I mean, think about when a defensive line goes up against an offensive line. Majority of the time, the guard is going to go up against one of the defensive tackles, whereas the offensive tackles are going to go up against the edge rushers. So they have to have more lateral quickness off the edge and have quicker hip speed than your traditional guard would, which is primarily focused on planting that foot in the ground and driving forward north to south. Does that make sense? Good. Glad we're on the same page. So when I look at the Bills' defensive line, their offensive line, it's a very good one. It's a really good offensive line. But the more and more I think about it, I'd like to extend Edwards, but I want to play devil's advocate real quick. Humor me for just a second, if you will. I think McGovern actually deserves the pay first. And here's why. I'm about to show you the entire PFF grade for all of the offensive linemen on the Bills. Do you notice something about David Edwards? It's the second lowest out of all of those linemen. So, could the Bills wait another year, and then if he performs as good, maybe slightly worse, attack guard in the draft next season? It's a big possibility. If he starts off really hot, they could always extend him in the middle of the season. This is where timing is on your side if you're Brandon Beane. You don't have to make any rash decisions right now. So I disagree, actually, with Aaron Schatz's assessment of not necessarily not paying Edwards, my fault, my apologies, but instead just letting it breathe, letting the season play out. So that's where we disagree. I think it's about a timing thing, not about a payment thing. Does that make sense? Okay. So, also, I just want to make it clear, by the way, that this wouldn't be my primary goal here for the Buffalo Bills. I don't think attacking your offensive lineman at this point is your primary focus or should be your primary focus. But then again, that's just me. I'm all over the map, and who am I to say? I'm not an ESPN writer. So, what do you do? So if you had to pick a player to sign, Edwards or McGovern, let me know who you would sign first. Type DE for Edwards or CM for Connor McGovern. I'm typing my CM because McGovern is actually top 10 right now out of all of the centers that are currently graded by PFF. McGovern ranks number 10 out of 40. So let's just throw that out there as well. All right, on to the next. What ESPN had to say about Maxwell Hairston. And I know we've talked a lot about Max on the channel of late, but he is the most recent first-round pick, and obviously, he has a lot of potential considering how fast this guy is. Now, ESPN said this, though, and it's kind of, I don't want to call it a dig, but it definitely highlighted that Max has kind of had an up and down few months at first with the Bills. Hairston showed signs of why he is strongly in the mix for the outside cornerback number 2 role. But he's had his highs and lows. He often could be seen getting plenty of attention and feedback from his coaches. All right, timeout. Why is that a bad thing? Why is getting coaching for a rookie a bad thing? He needs that. And clearly, size has not been on his side. Hairston is one of the smaller corners in this draft class. But what he lacks in size, he makes up for in athleticism and speed. So let's just take a look at what the cornerback depth chart looks like so far. Hairston's going to be your number 2 outside corner. Taron Johnson's playing the nickel, and obviously we locked down Christian Benford. So the Bills' cornerback room looks pretty good right now. Pretty good considering we all believe that Hairston is going to be what we think he is. But, and this is a big but, and you're probably going to say, oh, no, I don't like this take. You're going to see the talent on full display from Max in year 1. But there will be growing pains. He doesn't have a lot of size on him. His weight. He needs to put on more weight. And my fear is that he's going to go up against a guy like DK Metcalf and get bullied off the line of scrimmage. And if you want me to deep dive a little bit about NFL corners and what their average size is, so I did all the homework. The average height is 6 foot. The average quarterback weight is 193.5 pounds. That's the average. And the NFL average cornerback 40 time is 4.48. So Hairston, 5'11", 186 pounds, and ran a 4.28. So clearly he's faster than their average corner. But he's an inch shorter and 7 pounds lighter. Now, those don't sound like they're, crazy numbers. He's not so far off the grid, but he needs to put on a little bit more size. In fact, getting him to 195 pounds should probably be the goal. Because what happens when you're an undersized player going up in a highly physical side of the ball and even more physical league than you faced in college? It leads to injuries. So I have concerns about Hairston's size leading to injuries. But with that being said, he's going to be incredibly fun to watch. I have no doubt about it. In fact, watching him on a go route cover a guy like Tyreek Hill is going to be must-watch television. And you can put a pretty penny on that. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. Remember, our June sub numbers look like this. We're super close to 5K. Can't wait. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. And as always, be cool.